The bells of Saint-Germain rang at dawn on the 24th of August, 1572. That was the signal. And within the hour, the streets of Paris ran with blood. Thousands were dead before the day was out, and tens of thousands across France before it stopped. The center of this decision wasn't a king or a general. It was a mother. She had been called the Black Queen, Madame Serpent. She was the Italian woman who had poisoned France. What no one said clearly was that France, as a unified kingdom, might not have survived without her. This is the story of Catherine de' Medici. She was born in Florence on the 13th of April, 1519. Her mother died 15 days later. Her father died 6 days after that. She was an orphan before she was 1 month old. But the name she carried was worth more than most kingdoms. The Medici, bankers to popes, they were the patrons of Leonardo, Botticelli, to Michelangelo. They had purchased their way from merchants to monarchs in under 3 generations. Catherine's great-uncle was Pope Leo X. Her relative Giulio de' Medici became Pope Clement VII. The family had money, they had influence, they had every tool of power. Except a throne. In 1533, Pope Clement arranged her marriage to Henry, Duke of Orleans, who was the second son of the King of France. She was 14, and he was also 14. She arrived with a dowry that stunned the French court and a recipe for a new kind of heel. However, the court was not impressed. Henry had a mistress, Diane de Poitiers. She was 20 years his senior and entirely unconcerned about it. She had known him since he was a child, and by the time they became lovers, she was in her mid-30s and he was barely 14. By the time Catherine arrived at court, Diane had spent years shaping the man who would become king, and the shaping was complete. For over 20 years, Catherine watched. She was queen in title, and Diane was queen in effect. Diane wore the crown jewels. Diane decorated the royal chateaus. Diane's initial appeared alongside the royal H on official emblems. Even with that, Catherine had 10 children and almost no influence. Then, on the 30th of June, 1559, a lance shattered against Henry's helmet during a jousting tournament. His opponent was Gabriel de Montgomery, captain of the Scottish Guard. The splinter of wood that entered his visor was unremarkably small. It penetrated his brain, and he died 10 days later. In a single afternoon, everything reversed. Catherine denied Diane de Poitiers' entry to Henry's deathbed. After he died, she sent for Diane to collect her jewelry. Every piece was back by morning. The reward of 20 years of patience, arriving at once. Her son Francis II was 15 when he was crowned. He was barely 16 when he died of an ear infection that spread to his brain in December 1560. Just 16 months into his reign. The throne again needed a king. Charles IX was 10 when he took the throne, and Catherine was appointed regent. She was 40 years old, and she had been waiting for this for 2 decades. France was fracturing. The Protestant Huguenot movement had spread through the nobility and the merchant class, and the kingdom was dividing along a line no edict could simply erase. The Guise family, aggressively Catholic, wanted them suppressed, and they did so violently. Catherine's instinct was to negotiate. The Edict of January 1562 gave Protestants limited rights to worship outside city walls. It was a compromise, and both sides read it as weakness. The Catholics were furious. 6 weeks later, the Duke of Guise massacred a Huguenot congregation at Vassy. The edict was 6 weeks old. Now the wars of religion had begun. Catherine took Charles on a 2-year tour of France. They went to 150 towns, every major province, showing the country its king and rebuilding the authority of the crown as a physical, present fact. She met Protestant nobles directly, she assessed their strength, and negotiated in private. She moved between sides like a chess player, who understood that the board mattered more than any one piece. She drafted 3 separate peace edicts: Amboise, Longjumeau, and Saint-Germain. She signed them all, and they all failed. None of it held. By 1572, there was one man who held the loyalty of the Huguenot nobility and the ear of her son, the king. He was Admiral Gaspard de Coligny. He was pushing Charles toward war with Spain, and Catherine was not going to let that happen. She decided that he had to go. The plan was finalized: an assassination. It was clean and political, the kind that could be denied. On the 18th of August, Catherine's own daughter Margaret married the Huguenot leader Henry of Navarre at Notre Dame as a peace gesture. Every major Protestant noble in France came to Paris for the wedding. Paris was full of Huguenot leadership. It was the most concentrated gathering in decades. 4 days later, someone fired on Coligny in the street. He was wounded, but not killed. The Protestant nobles were furious. Revenge was in the air. And every single one of them was still in the city. Catherine made a calculation. It was a failed assassination, and witnesses were everywhere. Protestant nobles were crowding the city. They had a young king who could be persuaded that his crown was under threat. She and the council authorized the killing of Coligny and his principal lieutenants. It was not a massacre, it was a targeted removal. She went to Charles IX and told him there was a plot against the crown. Then he gave the order. What followed could not be controlled. Killing of 40 Protestant leaders became a citywide massacre. Then it spread to the provinces. Historians estimate between 5,000 and 25,000 deaths. When Charles saw what he had authorized, he reportedly wept. Catherine did not. She had spent 30 years surviving by knowing which way the current moved. This time, she had miscalculated the tide. She found herself blamed by everyone. Catholics who wanted more blood, Protestants who would never forgive. After this, Charles pulled away from her in the months that followed. Her influence over the king that she had protected for 15 years began to dissolve, quietly. Charles died in 1574. His brother Henry III took the throne. Her 3 sons had been 3 kings of France, a record no other queen mother in French royal history has matched. Catherine spent her final years trying to hold a fractured kingdom together, with letters, marriages, and negotiations. She was traveling through France well into her 60s, gravely ill, still working. The instruments of her statecraft never changed, only the returns did. In December 1588, Henry III invited the Duke of Guise to Blois and had him assassinated. He did not consult Catherine, so she found out afterward. She reportedly told a visitor, "He has cut the thread that I was spinning." She died 3 weeks later, on the 5th of January 1589, most likely from pleurisy. She was 69. 8 months later, her son Henry III was killed by a Catholic monk. She never got to know. She was buried as a queen. The dynasty she had held together by hand, by letter, by calculation and compromise, all ended the same year she did. If you enjoy stories about powerful, dangerous, and misunderstood women in history, you're in the right place. This is The Power Lens, where we uncover the truth behind history's most unforgettable women.